Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and I'm putting down my claim for Washington will have the most explosive offense in the NFL next year. We can argue about best, we can argue about strongest, we can argue about most efficient, but if we're just talking pure explosion, speed, athleticism, Washington will have the most explosive offense in the NFL. And I'm gonna show y'all why with a lot of random advanced statistics. I'm stating my claim right now. Don't make me look stupid, Burgundy. Go, let's get it. First of all, I want to start with who we already have, and that's Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin has had 6 different quarterbacks in 2 years. Ryan Fitzpatrick will be the 7th in 3. Terry McLaurin had Case Keenum, Dwayne Haskins, Colt McCoy his rookie season. Then Dwayne Haskins, Alex Smith, Kyle Allen, and Taylor Heineke his sophomore season last season. He deserves better. And sadly, his rookie season he only got 93 targets. And then last year he got 134, which is good, but he should have had more. But after a while, teams started double teaming him and it was just hard to get him the ball. He was literally only targeted 6 times each against the Steelers and 49ers, both wins. But I know he's glad to finally have some more receivers around him that will make it almost impossible to just double team him and focus on him. Defensive coordinators literally at a certain point last season were like, we're going to stop Terry McLaurin and force the rest of the team to figure it out, which was smart, but you won't be able to do that this year. Luckily for McLaurin, Ryan Fitzpatrick is known to get his #1 receivers the ball. As long as he's had 10 plus starts in the past 8 seasons, TJ Husman-Jada, his #1 receiver, had 137 targets. Stevie Johnson at 148, 141, and 134. Andre Johnson at 146. Brandon Marshall at 173, 128. And Devontae Parker at 128. Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to get the ball to his #1 receiver. It doesn't matter how many talented receivers are around. Terry McLaurin's the #1. He will see the ball fly his way a lot. I'm expecting him to have a great fantasy year, honestly. And out of the 134 times that McLaurin was targeted last season, he only had 3 drops. Now let's get to some of these more advanced statistics. This is where we start to have a little fun. Terry McLaurin and J.D. McKissic were 2 of the top 10 players out of the entire NFL last year in yards after catch. Washington and the Rams were the only 2 teams with 2 players in the top 10. Keeping it going. Antonio Gibson was 8th in yards after catch per reception. Cam Sims was 12th. Washington was the only team in the NFL last year with 2 in the top 12. Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson were both in the top 17 in the NFL in broken tackles after receptions. Washington, Chicago, and Kansas City were the only 3 teams with more than 1 in that top 17. Also, Antonio Gibson and Cam Sims were both top 10 in receptions per broken tackle last season, and Washington is the only team with 2 in the top 10. Also, according to Next Gen Stats, McLaurin's 48 yards after catch play in week 9 was the 9th most yards after catch above expected in a play in the entire NFL last season. And his play was the only one out of the top 20 that was expected to only gain 1 yards after catch. So he's the king of making something out of nothing. Basically, he turned something that was only supposed to gain 1 more yard after he touched the ball into 49 total yards, which is nothing anybody else did in the NFL last season. Also, the only 2 running backs with 80 receptions last season were J.D. McKissic and Alvin Kamara. And Alvin Kamara was the only running back who had more receptions and receiving yards than McKissic had last season. I mean, it's just so many targets for Ryan Fitzpatrick. Speaking of him, and we're going to dive into him last, but he had a 78.6% completion percentage, 9 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions on passes fewer than 10 yards last season. So those running backs, Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissic, and all of those screens we love to run with Terry McLaurin, what we're gonna run with Curtis Samuel and all of these guys. Oh yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick is the quarterback for that. 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, almost 80% completion percentage. Anything within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. Moving on to the guys that we gained. This is where we start to have fun now. Curtis Samuel in 2020 on deep targets, which are 20 plus yards, had a 99.9 receiving grade from Pro Football Focus, which was tied for first in the NFL. So he was one of, if not the best, deep target last season. Also, Allen Robinson's last 45 games, 258 touches, 17 touchdowns. Curtis Samuel's last 42, not 45, 42 games, 238 touches, 19 touchdowns. Less touches, less games, more touchdowns than Allen Robinson. And this is our wide receiver 2, potentially wide receiver 3 if Diami Brown is going to be as good as I think he will be. Also, Curtis Samuel had a 77% catch rate on deep targets in 2020, highest amongst wide receivers. This is not a grade, this is an advanced statistic that is a fact. Also, highest passer rating on throws 20 plus yards down the field in 2020 was Curtis Samuel with 157.9. Oh man, Ryan Fitzpatrick's gonna love this guy. Curtis Samuel also averaged 3.5 rushing yards after contact per attempt in 2020 on 41 carries. That would have been 7th amongst all running backs. So statistically, if we're just talking about yards after contact per rush, Curtis Samuel's the 7th best running back in the NFL, along with being arguably the best deep target in the NFL as well. And these are all statistics. These aren't grades. This isn't even analysis. This is just pure advanced statistics. And one big thing I love about Curtis Samuel is that he's getting better and better. From 2019 going into 2020, he gained 224 more receiving yards, 23 more receptions, so he was used more. He had 22 more rushing attempts, which means they trusted him more, and 70 more rushing yards, all while playing 296 less snaps. So he played less in 2020 than 2019 and still was used more and was far more efficient at the same time, getting better and better. I love guys whose trajectory is predicting them to be even better than the last time we saw him. So you can expect to at least get what he's done in the past, which again, one of the best deep targets in the NFL, and also statistically the 7th best running back in the NFL, even though he's not just running in between the tackles. So of course that's like biased and skewed, but just know he makes people miss. Moving on to Diami Brown, who we added with the 82nd pick overall in the 3rd round. Chris Sims had him as his 3rd favorite receiver, even over Rashad Bateman and Jalen Waddle. And he had an 8.38 RAS grade, good speed, only because his 20 split and his 10 split weren't that great, but his 40-yard dash was great in the green. His explosion was good overall, but that's only because his vertical was a 35.5, but his broad jump was 1008, which is elite. So he's very explosive, very fast, but with his testing, he's okay in agility. But hey, the proof is in the pudding, and we're about to get into that, man. Highly productive, highly athletic. I don't care what he tested. You know why? Because since 2019, he had 10 catches of 50 plus yards, which is 1st in college football out of any receiver, no matter the conference, no matter the team, anything. Since 2019, he's had the most catches in college football of 50 plus yards. Best deep threat stat number 1. Moving on to best deep threat in the draft stat number 2. Diami Brown was the first D1 player ever in college football history to average 20 yards per catch in consecutive years since 2000. The only other player to do it twice was James Washington. Also, last year, he had 12 catches of over 20 yards with an average depth of target with 18.7 yards. So on average, whenever he was targeted, he was 18.7 yards down the field. And he had 3.11 yards per route run. Man, come on now. Also, Diami Brown on go routes since 2019. 15 receptions, tied for 1st. 606 yards, 1st. 8 touchdowns, tied for 1st. So since 2019, he's literally been the best deep threat in college football, like period, regardless of conference, regardless of team. And then on top of that, I mean, like I said, with him having 4.44 speed, he's only the 4th fastest guy on our offense. You have Curtis Samuel, who ran a 4.31, Terry McLaurin, who ran a 4.35, and Antonio Gibson at 6'2", 220 ran a 4.39. And that's the thing. All of these guys are 6 feet at the shortest. Like, we're not out here with 5'8", 5'9" guys that are speedsters. Everybody is 6 feet or taller, and Diami Brown is the slowest out of all of them, running a 4.44 40 time. Like, that's ridiculous, y'all. And again, Antonio Gibson is 6'2", 220, and he ran a 4.39. Come on now. He's built like a linebacker at running back, but running like Deshaun Jackson. Come on now. Also, I love the age. I mean, this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the explosion per se, but right now, if Adam Humphries makes the team, which is quite likely, especially if he's healthy, he's the oldest receiver on this team by at least 2 years at 27 years old. McLaurin is the next oldest at 25. Curtis Samuel's 24. Cam Sims is 25. Steven Sims is 24. Kelvin Harmon is 23. Isaiah Wright's 24. And Antonio Gandy-Golden is 22. Again, Adam Humphries is the oldest by at least 2 years out of anybody in this receiving core right now. It's just ridiculous. The youth movement is wild. Our defense is pretty similar in a way too. But moving on to Ryan Fitzpatrick. And the reason this is important because these receivers have to get the ball thrown to them. It doesn't matter how explosive they are if the quarterback isn't able to get them the ball, especially consistently. And that's the thing. That's why we're going to have the most explosive offense in the NFL this upcoming season, because Ryan Fitzpatrick is the man for the job. First of all, let's compare him to the quarterbacks from last year. Ryan Fitzpatrick's last 16 starts versus Washington football teams, all of the quarterbacks in the last 16 starts. Ryan Fitzpatrick had 4,414 yards. All of our quarterbacks had 3,768 yards combined. Ryan Fitzpatrick had 27 touchdowns. Our guys had 16. Ryan Fitzpatrick had 13 interceptions. Our guys had 16. And Ryan Fitzpatrick also had a 65.2 completion percentage, while our guys had a 64.7 completion percentage, both exactly on 599 attempts. That's crazy. A clear upgrade, but we're going to get to these advanced statistics to let you know how serious of an upgrade Ryan Fitzpatrick is over anything we threw out there last season. I'm not saying he's the best quarterback in the world, not saying he's the best quarterback in the NFL, but he's clearly way better than what we had last year. And somehow, even Alex Smith on one leg went 5-1, and he had more interceptions than touchdowns. And all we did was just add more weapons, but let's keep going. Ryan Fitzpatrick against the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Giants in 2019. He had a 63.4 completion percentage, 673 yards in those 3 games, 12.94 yards per completion in those 3 games, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception in those 3 games, and a 104.37 passer rating. So he's a Giants, Cowboys, and Eagles killer potentially. That's very important for our division specifically, because he's going to play those guys 6 times this year. So the fact that he has their number is very important. Might want to pick up Ryan Fitzpatrick in fantasy when he at least goes against those 3 teams. We'll see about the rest, but those 3 teams, good fantasy pickup option. Also, Washington is going from one of the most boring quarterback situations to one of the most fun, because Alex Smith had a vertical route percentage of 10.3. Ryan Fitzpatrick had a 21.7, and this is last season, 2020 season. Alex Smith had a tight window throw percentage of 13.5. Ryan Fitzpatrick had a 21.7. Alex Smith had an 11.9% intermediate throw percentage. Ryan Fitzpatrick had a 27.7. Also, Alex Smith's percentage of yards after the catch was 61.4% of his passing yards. Ryan Fitzpatrick's was only 44.2. So Alex Smith, most of his yards came from yards after catch from the receiver or running back or tight end. Most of Ryan Fitzpatrick's yards were on him before the catch. So Ryan Fitzpatrick, just a direct comparison to Alex Smith, is just not even close. And it's also interesting too because Ryan Fitzpatrick had the 5th highest QBR out of any quarterback last season. So take note of that as well. Again, these are just advanced statistics. This is not even me saying he's better. This is the stats saying he's better. And even Pro Football Focus really likes him. Ryan Fitzpatrick had a 92.7 grade on 20 plus yards throws. So Diami Brown, Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin are going to love him just for that alone. Also, only 43% of Ryan Fitzpatrick passes last season were to open receivers, 2nd lowest in the NFL. So you could argue whether that's just his decision making, not throwing it to open receivers, or his receivers not getting open. Either way, his throws to open receivers was only 43%, the 2nd lowest in the NFL. And at the same time, he also had the 2nd highest rate of accurate throws. He was statistically, according to Pro Football Focus, the 2nd most accurate quarterback in the NFL last year. That's wild. Also, where Ryan Fitzpatrick will help a lot is that Washington's top 2 receivers in average depth of target when targeted last season were Cam Sims and Terry McLaurin. Cam Sims was 59th in the NFL. Terry McLaurin was 78th. I mean, straight dinking and dunking last season. That's going to change when Ryan Fitzpatrick gets here. Also, Ryan Fitzpatrick to Mac Hollins was the 4th most improbable completion of 2020 according to Next Gen Stats. That's the play where his helmet's getting pulled down and everything. You see the memes. So that's Fitzmagic all day. The 4th most improbable completion of all of last season. Also, according to Next Gen Stats, Ryan Fitzpatrick was the 2nd most aggressive quarterback in the NFL last year, only behind Mike Glennon. And Fitzpatrick had the highest completion percentage out of any quarterback in the top 19 of the most aggressive QBs. So he's the smartest gambler in the NFL, you want to say? You can even tell how aggressive he is just by how many throwaways he had. Haskins threw the ball away out of bounds, like out of bounds, just away from anybody, as an incompletion on purpose to avoid a turnover, 4 times with his 1,439 passing yards last season. Alex Smith threw it away 12 times with 1,582 passing yards. Kyle Allen threw it away 8 times with only 610 passing yards. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick had more yards than all of them, 2,091, and still threw it away less than all of them, only 2 times. So in comparison, Ryan Fitzpatrick had more than 1,400 more passing yards than Kyle Allen and threw it away less than him 6 times, 2 to his 8. Ryan Fitzpatrick had more than 500 more passing yards than Alex Smith and threw it away 10 less times than him, 2 to his 12. Boy, that man's definitely a different type of aggressive. But again, like the previous advanced stat, you could say he's the smartest gambler in the NFL. So you can't be mad at it. And this is all recent. The theme of all of this, as far as Ryan Fitzpatrick goes, this is not his overall career. This is how he's been the past year especially, but really the past 3. He's played his best football in his career the past 3 years. And last year, you could definitely say, especially advanced statistics wise, was his best year yet. Is he going to be just as good, if not better, next year? Assuming so with this receiving core. But moving on. Just to directly compare Ryan Fitzpatrick to Alex Smith and Dwayne Haskins, he had a 68.5 completion percentage. Alex Smith had a 66.6, and Dwayne Haskins had a 61.4. But at the same time, Ryan Fitzpatrick had a 7.8 yards per attempt to Haskins 6.7 and Alex Smith 5.1. Also, Ryan Fitzpatrick was on target for the highest percentage, 79.9%. Alex Smith was on target 76.3, and Dwayne Haskins was on target 69.6. And then at the same time, Ryan Fitzpatrick was blitzed the most by far between the 3, 99 times to Alex Smith 63 and Haskins 66. And at the same time, he was sacked the least by far, 14 times to Alex Smith 22, Dwayne Haskins 20. So Ryan Fitzpatrick was blitzed 99 times, only sacked 14. Alex Smith was blitzed 63 times, sacked 22, and Dwayne Haskins was blitzed 66 times, sacked 20. And then also Ryan Fitzpatrick had a 76.9 QBR last season. Alex Smith had a 34.8. Dwayne Haskins had a 31. I believe those two are dead last in the NFL. Speaking of dead last, both Alex Smith and Haskins were dead last in average completed air yards last season. Ryan Fitzpatrick was 13th. Another dead last. Haskins was dead last year in actual completion percentage over expected completion percentage. Alex Smith was 13th worst, not far behind, and Ryan Fitzpatrick was 7th best. Again, this is actual completion percentage over expected completion percentage. And even if you want to take receivers out of the equation, eliminate their ability to negatively affect a quarterback's stats from easy drop passes, or to positively affect quarterback stats by making diving catches and all kinds of circus catches and things like that. So both positive and negative, just taking receivers out of the equation. And if you just look at the percentage of on-target throws last season, Ryan Fitzpatrick was 6th in the NFL out of all quarterbacks. Also, Ryan Fitzpatrick knows how to work very well with the bad offensive line. Not necessarily saying the Miami Dolphins offensive line was bad, but I know for a fact ours isn't. But when in doubt, Ryan Fitzpatrick, with all of these crazy stats I've just read y'all for the past few minutes, and how productive and efficient he was, how on target it was, and his average depth of target, and him being the most aggressive quarterback in the NFL, all the while having the second shortest time to throw per pass play in 2020. Only Big Ben had less time. And that doesn't automatically mean his offensive line was terrible last season. He was just very decisive. So even if our O-line is scary bad, which it won't be, but there may be some plays that it will get ugly. It happens to every O-line every year. Just sometimes the offensive line breaks down. Sometimes people just make mistakes. Even Trent Williams makes mistakes. But even then, Ryan Fitzpatrick is the second quickest snap the ball to throwing the ball QB in the NFL. At least he was last season. So if any team in the NFL doesn't have to worry about offensive line issues, it's us. But again, I think this offensive line, it was top half of the league last year, above average. I think we can potentially be top 10 depending on how everything works out. But again, as a contingency plan, Ryan Fitzpatrick is one of the most prepared quarterbacks for a bad O-line. He just gets the ball out of his hands the second quickest. And not only is Washington getting a big upgrade at quarterback play from last year, but also Ryan Fitzpatrick is also getting a big upgrade in receivers. This is potentially the best receiving core he's ever had. And if he was able to put up those stats that I just spoke about with Devontae Parker and Will Fuller, who are both injury prone, as his top 2 receivers, imagine what he can do with Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Diami Brown, and anybody else that may contribute. Just those 3 alone, with Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissic out the backfield, Jared Patterson. Come on now. And we still have other guys with potential. See if Adam Humphries is healthy. We'll see if Antonio Gibson can get back healthy and ball out. We'll see if Isaiah Wright can ball out. We'll see if Kelvin Harmon can get back healthy and ball out. We'll see if Steven Sims can stop being one of the most inconsistent wide receivers ever. We'll see if Dax Milne, Zach Wilson's favorite target last season, by far wasn't even close. I mean, a lot of Zach Wilson's great plays, this Dax Milne laying it all on the line to go make the catch. And he's almost an afterthought compared to the top 3 guys. So this receiving core is crazy. And just to get on the Cowboys' head real quick, just to emphasize how much them having Dak Prescott really doesn't matter as much as they think. First of all, I love Dak Prescott. I think he's a top 10 quarterback, but will he come back next season 100% healthy? We'll see. But even so, the last 2 seasons, Dak Prescott has had a 73.8 total QBR. Ryan Fitzpatrick had a 71.5. But again, if you just isolate last season, Ryan Fitzpatrick had his best season of his entire career, so the season before that is kind of weighing down his QBR average. Also, Dak Prescott had a 66 completion percentage these past 2 years. Ryan Fitzpatrick had a 64. Dak Prescott has a 39 touchdown to 15 interceptions. Ryan Fitzpatrick has 33 touchdowns to 21 interceptions. And they both rank top 7 in QBR over these last 2 seasons. So it's not this big gap from Dak Prescott to Ryan Fitzpatrick. Our defense is way better than the Cowboys. I believe our offensive weapons will be better. And people keep talking about how Dak Prescott is easily the best quarterback in the division. Maybe he is, but the gap is nowhere near as big as people think. And Ryan Fitzpatrick is definitely a more aggressive and bigger play quarterback than Dak Prescott. So this is going to be really interesting to watch. But as far as Ryan Fitzpatrick goes, man, specifically, shouts out to Mark Phillips because he put it perfectly. Washington football team has done a nice job assembling a wide receiver group that will play to Ryan Fitzpatrick's strengths. The team speed will allow them to, 1, stretch the field very well, 2, provide explosive plays, and also number 3, catch guys running interceptions back. Just like how you saw Terry McLaurin run down Jalen Smith off of that terrible Alex Smith interception. We now have Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, and Diami Brown who can all do the same when Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to throw those interceptions. You don't get most aggressive quarterback in the NFL without getting some interceptions. But at least, you know, it's funny, but it's true. We have some receivers that can run down some of these DBs trying to return these interceptions. You know what I'm saying? Also, shouts out to Phil A. Perry. He put together a calculated average speeds for the top skilled players and projected 11 personnel packages for the entire NFL. And then he updated it for the year 2021. In the top 5 rankings are the New York Giants with a 4.418, us with a 4.422, and then the Detroit Lions with a 4.436. Atlanta with a 4.448, and Miami and Kansas City tied for 5th with a 4.45. So if we're just talking pure speed, we have the second most speed out of our top skill position players. And honestly, I don't really acknowledge the Giants above us just because our guys are healthy. We can expect Diami Brown, Curtis Samuel to give us 16 games. We can expect Terry McLaurin to give us 14 at least. Kenny Golladay, I don't know. John Ross, I don't know. Darius Slayton, I don't know. Saquon, I don't know. I'm not wishing anything on them at all. I actually prefer to see our guys at our best go against opponents at their best because it just makes for better football. At the end of the day, we're watching football to be entertained. It's a sport. There's no reason we should be wishing injuries on any other team's players ever. At the end of the day, all of this is supposed to be fun. But again, the Giants above us in speed, I wouldn't count on that speed. I would say we're the fastest team in the NFL because do you actually expect all of their fastest guys to actually play a consistent enough amount of games for it to matter? So to me, we take the crown as the fastest top skill position team in the NFL, period. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Just wanted to state my case on why Washington will have the most explosive offense in the NFL this upcoming season. Can't wait, man. Just imagine if we get like a franchise quarterback that's a dual threat, strong arm. Oh my, it's gonna be over with the weapons we have. But I'm still very excited about what Ryan Fitzpatrick can do because this offense is literally tailor-made for him. Ryan Fitzpatrick had his best season last season. I think he will again top himself and have his best season going forward. best receiving core he's ever played with, potentially one of his best offensive lines, definitely the best defense he's ever played with. So they're going to be able to get the ball back to him and let him make more plays and give him more opportunities to make explosive plays. So the defense is an added factor to this, because if your defense can't get off the field, your offense isn't on the field much. And our defense gets people off the field, and it's only even better from last season. So I expect our offense to win time of possession consistently and put up ridiculous numbers, like crazy numbers, crazy highlights. I can already see them by the end of the season starting to flex us to more primetime games, because by then everybody will realize that we do have the most explosive offense in the NFL. And Diami Brown even stated it. His initial presser after we drafted him, he said it's between us and the Chiefs to have the most explosive offense, but he honestly felt like we do. And then after looking at these advanced statistics, how can you push back on that? How can you disagree? But yeah, man, please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Are these stats legit? Is my claim legit? And even if you don't feel like we have the most explosive offense potentially in this upcoming season, are we at least top 5, top 3? Gotta be. But definitely get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about all of this. As well, please like this video if you liked it. If you learned anything, please subscribe if you haven't. Hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get more informative videos like this one. Again, coming out with film sessions for every player we drafted, including undrafted free agent running back Jaret Patterson. Film sessions for all of those guys leading up to training camp. Starting with Jamin Davis. I might move Jaret Patterson in a second because I'm so excited about him. And then I'll go from there. And also stay tuned for all of the live streams every Friday 8 to 10 p.m. Every Sunday for a couple of hours in the afternoon or the evening. And a lot of the times those live streams, I will open the phone lines for y'all to call in, ask whatever questions you have, or say whatever you want to say, talk about whatever you want to talk about, as far as the burgundy and gold, as far as whatever. So stay tuned for the endless content, man. Like I said, at least a video a day, maybe 2 or 3, depending on what's going on. Just really busy, so I try to squeeze in videos when I can. But man, again, I always appreciate the support, man. Shouts out to everybody that donates to the channel big time. Special shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. And a huge shouts out to my only all-pro sponsor, Jaden. Man, I really appreciate all y'all, man. Like I said, I've been busy. I'm trying to get into the comments. I'm trying to get back to Twitter and answer everybody in the DMs and the mentions and things like that. But I just been so busy working on videos like this one, working on further videos. I have so many video ideas and concepts, and some videos that I'm already working on you may not even see till like another month from now and things like that. So I'm always busy doing plenty of yard work and things like that. So, you know, just stay patient with me. Again, at least a video a day. I got y'all. Catch y'all later. I'm out.